Hi.
Hi.
Hey, we're live. Short block 3. Yes. My name is Rebecca Martin. I am the founder of Cinema Femme magazine and the festival director. This is our inaugural film festival. And I'm so excited to introduce the filmmakers of Short Block 3 and also our amazing moderator, Alice Waddington. Big fan of Paradise Hills. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. It is an amazing film. So I will introduce one by one, by the order on screen, I guess. We have now Weronika Maria Szalas. Yes. Her film is Curiouser and Curiouser. Luana Di Pasquale. Yep. Okay, yes, and I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at pronouncing things, but Keep Mum, which was terrifying but great, like in a good way. And then Christiana Laine, she did Petal Push, and I freaking love that film. So musical and beautiful. So I'm really excited to hear more about that. Xiwen Miao, she did Me and Myself. And that is I've never seen anything like it before, and I loved it. And Alice is going to go ahead and ask questions. We'll have audience participation at the end, and then I'll come in the end to say goodbye. Have fun, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. Thank you so much as well to you all for being here today. It's my honor to introduce you. I think that you are part of the incoming generation of filmmakers, and I was just telling you that watching this film gives me a sense of hope and of the beauty of the immediate future film, which is just wonderful. I would like to start with a more technical question of wanting to know about your inspirations, if that's okay. So if we could just go in the order that we just did and talk a little bit about that for every one of us beginning.
Who starts?
For example, Xiwen, if you want.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here and finally meet you all. So my film is called Me and Myself. It's a short about a young man who has agoraphobia, and he battles his fear of leaving the house after receiving a phone call from her sister, and like how he processes his decision and how he processes and makes his decision to visit his sister and his newborn nephew. So this film's actually a class project, and the requirement was to write a short that has 4 lines of dialogue or less. So I was like, okay, so 4 lines, that's not a lot. So why don't we just scratch that totally? And I thought about one of my friends who has agoraphobia. And so the story was inspired by that. And that's how this film came to life.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Luana, if you want to go next and talk about yours now.
Sure. I remember that it was like Christmas 2017. And I didn't go to Italy to party Christmas with my family. I stay here. And I broke him up. And it just came out the idea, and in a week I wrote it. And then bearing in mind who I wanted to work with, which is Nadira Morey and her son, which she is my soulmate friends. And it just came up very natural, and I wrote it in a week. And then I had 1 year to develop it with my actors. And then we managed to shoot it in March 2018. So it's been a quite long journey of development, and let's see. And then we did it, and now he's here. So
awesome, lovely, yay! Thank you. And Christiana, if you wanna speak about yours.
Sure, thank you. So my film also was a pretty long in the like development process. I had the initial idea really came from just a dreamlike kind of vision that I had in my head, and I wanted to create a scene where people were sort of camouflaged in and coming out of this wall of flowers. And I did shoot something like that, I believe in 2018, like the beginning of 2018. But it was my first time, like I was directing, doing the cinematography, art directing, doing all, like I did everything, and I had 5 characters. So it was something that I'm really proud of, but it wasn't like the quality and it wasn't the film that I truly was envisioning. So I took that and then showed that to some people and kind of started collaborating with my friend Vanessa, who did the music, and sort of we collaborated and went back and forth on the music together, and she produced it all. And from hearing her sounds and snippets of like the poetry she was writing and stuff, I further wrote the treatment, and that's where it came from.
Lovely, lovely. We'll talk about all of this in just a second, but just to finish up the interest, Veronica, you wanted to do yours as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. Well, it's a long and short story at the same time, because my film is based on a quote from Alice in Wonderland, is curious and curiosa, and I've been given that quote from my school as a part of my training, and always during like the third term we are asked to devise a piece of theatre or something like that. But because of current circumstances, I was trapped in my flat, and I thought, why not to try to film something, because I've been thinking about it for a long time. So that's the backstory, how it all started and how I found the courage to finally do it. But my inspiration is like, I just looked at the quote and I saw 2 words exactly the same. And it's not only 1 word, but 2 words. So duality of life. And during this time when I was stuck, everyone was stuck at home. I just like realized like the dream reality and dream world and reality become almost one, because I dreamed so much. And all the images you can see in my film basically are my dreams. Like I tried my best to recreate and describe and look for paintings. Like I love painting, so one of my favorite painters is Pierre Bonnard. So for the bath scene, I inspired by his paintings, and it's how it influenced and involved, and yeah, and I started to write as well. So yeah.
Lovely. I love all of this. To hear all of these inspirations is always so interesting. It's always also fascinating to have a certain idea or come into a visual project or a short film, a movie, whatever it is, with an idea of what the author wants to do, and then realizing that maybe they went a completely different path, or like they had absolutely different inspirations. It's interesting because with movies that I've made, a lot of people will bring up films that I haven't seen as main inspirations that they're super excited to tell me about. So forgive me if I do this to you. But I just wanted to get us started with some questions. Firstly, of course, with me and myself for Xiwen, which I found very touching. We were talking earlier on about whether we should be classifying it as a comedy or a drama. I think dramedy fits it pretty well, but I want to hear it from you. I really would love to know, what was the way that you went about researching agoraphobia specifically to create the main character? As in, did you consult with an expert, or maybe did it come from a closer source that you want to tell us about?
Sorry, I always do this.
You went right in. I love that. I love that face.
Well, thanks for the question.
Let's go.
Yes, as I mentioned before, so I have this friend who has agoraphobia. So before I started writing this, I talked to him about his experience. So, for example, he has his own brand that's not own brand, own band. That's his way of expressing himself, and also he would intentionally just take the bus just to avoid stuck in a taxi or Uber and talking to somebody. So that's how that's that. And sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry, it was mainly about whether it was a personal source of inspiration or whether you had spoken to an expert. Obviously, that is not necessarily the case here. You were speaking about the personal connection there.
Yeah, it's more of on a personal level than the other side.
That's so interesting. I feel like it's a very underrepresented situation for a lot of folks in cinema, and the times in which we get to see it on the big screen is like very stigmatized, right? However, I feel like it's something that we can all, in a certain sense, relate to right now, and we have like a heightened empathy for it at the moment that I think makes it really interesting and relevant. So thank you. I was just taking a look a little bit at the questions of the chat, and we had Xiwen, another one for you, if that's okay. It says, to what extent do you believe your film serves as an inadvertent metaphor for our current collective phobia of the outside world?
This film was made in 2019. So when the film came out, this whole thing hasn't happened yet. And I think it's a good point, at a good time for us to see this film, because under the pandemic, everybody's quarantining at home, and this fear of interacting with just strangers and people just walking on the street, and you have this fear, and you normalize the group of people who's born this way. So I think it's a great time, and it's a great time for us to watch this and feel empathize for different groups of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So moving on to Luana Di Pasquale, who of course made the beautiful Kick Mom. We have this really interesting exploration here of, again, mental health, in this case, uniquely because it's about female mental health. I'm trying not to do any spoilers, but it really is, a disturbing watch, of course, which means that it's touching, and an interesting exploration in general, specifically within motherhood of that aspect. Of course, Babadook came to mind, but as well, A Woman Under the Influence, maybe. Nadira Morai, the main actress, I hope I'm getting her name right, does a beautiful job. I was wondering if there was any specific psychological reason in terms of working with actors to cast folks who were related, apparently, which is what I thought that I saw in the cast. I don't know if they were mother and daughter and son.
Yeah, they are.
Hear more about that. How was that?
Well, she trained as an actor. She's now also a producer, and she is going to, I think, in somewhere in Australia, they're going to make a film about a moment in her life. And I thought to her, like, look, you're such a good actor. Why don't you play yourself? And I mean, why hiring an actor? I mean, you will be the perfect person, to play yourself. And we know each other for a long time, and because she already performed a lot of psychological stories, so I knew that I could push her further. And so it was a good place to start. She was not new to it. And therefore, it was wonderful working together. And also, I really want Cameron, her son, to be involved. Also because actually, after he did the film, he said, I don't want to be an actor. So he would, because he said, I've been waiting too much. It's a lot of too waiting time. So that was very funny of him. And we are very good. We are very good friends. There is a lot of trust. Yeah. And I think the trust really helped, to create this tension. And while there was no tension in reality, obviously. But we have to work very organically for 1 year together to get to that point. And therefore also a lot of the characterization of Danny, the mom son, is based on Cameron to facilitate him in order to be able to empathize with the character more, because he's not an actor, obviously. So it was his probably the second experience. He did a one short film where he got a little gun, and a plastic gun, and he shoot it. So he had more things to do in Kid Mom. And so the preparation, we worked very well together 1 year, and that, I think, it created like the basics to be able to achieve what we did.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know, please feel free, everyone, to chime in at any point. I don't know if you have been able to work with, had the pleasure or the privilege of working with children so far, but I feel like a lot of times they can be kind of the best possible actor on set, because when they get into the situation, they kind of forget that they're in a movie. So if you have a scene of a child, again, sitting on a table or in the car, like it's Luana's case, talking to their mom, they're talking to their mom. So if it's dramatic, obviously, if they get to darker places, you really need to, pull them back and help them through it, and just be like, hey, this is pretend, like nothing's gonna happen, and we're gonna go home, etc., etc., etc. But also, it's really joyous to watch them in the happier moments, because they are in it. They are playing with their friend or with someone they just met, or like they're making a new friend. It's kind of amazing to watch.
And another thing is but this was as we developed the script together. For instance, SOS Save Our Souls, what we hear during the film, is something that he came out very organically. So for me, it was very important to have him during the development of the script, to make him feel, oh, we are doing a game together, like we are playing. And he understood that very well, and he was just like, between one take and the other, I'm so tired to be a zombie, like that's what we were playing. It was a game. It was we play, basically. So he knew, and for me to bring him from also developing the script with him. So we were driving on the coast, and he keeps saying Cameron to me, Cameron, not Danny, right? Save our SOS, save our soul, SOS, our soul. Is like, and I thought, oh my God, this is just wonderful to include this in the script, because, and so he was part of the process. So for him, it was an ultra game, an ultra pleasure, I guess.
Yeah, he didn't know. He didn't know who was it, and he got lost in it completely, and then that's why he's celebrating it. Amazing, I love that. Then moving on, in this case, to Petal, directed by Christiana. I was wondering about the manner in which the symbology of reflections is used here in the journey to identity for women, right? So I was very happy to see so many levels of melanin, so many different body types, a certain queerness to it for sure. Could you speak a little bit about the importance of a positive mirror image in terms of self-love for queer people of color?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it was really, I did strive and intentionally want to make the cast sort of as diverse as possible. One of the things that I didn't achieve, that I wanted there to be a larger age range of people as well, but that proved to be a little bit more difficult to get all the people together. But as far as the use of reflections and sort of just the idea of seeing yourself in other people, and also seeing yourself in maybe things that you fear or things that are unsure to you, understanding that every person that you interact with and meet has an impact on your life, and is there, in present, was important to me. And I'm queer, definitely. A lot of the actors were, I think, just the idea of being finding like the beauty and the comfort of like your identity and your difference from other people, but the fact that all of it is necessary to like create this world.
Absolutely. I love that. That's so beautifully said. The idea as well, we have a question from the chat that says, how vital is the theme of mankind's interconnectedness to you, particularly at a time of such divisiveness?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Yeah, and I did start making this in early 2018. Not that it hasn't been a divisive time for a very long time. Things have come to light even more in the past year or so. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely extremely important to me. That's kind of my reason for wanting to make media, is to constantly sort of, reflect people back to themselves and make them think differently about the world around them and how they interact with others and the planet too.
No, I love that. We definitely have a responsibility. I kind of take it too seriously at times. I can, regarding questions of inclusivity, I feel like I have been in very serious conversations with my reps and producers at times about not seeing yourself in stories, or about how we can actually change the social narrative. And I feel like we sometimes kind of underestimate ourselves in those terms, as in, oh, it's just entertainment. Well, I don't think anything is just entertainment. Even if you're making a comedy, it doesn't have to be a drama, right? You can be making something that people see themselves in for the first time. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So we are moving on to this lovely artist. So the next short, of course, Curiosa and Curiosa, I just murdered that. And my name is Szalas, whatever. Directed by Weronika, Maria Szalas. This one has some stunning visuals in it, complete with that spoken word magical realism, which I feel like all of the folks in this blog kind of are like living in at the moment. There's an interesting sort of like Henry Clouzot's L'Enfer vibe here, with the juxtaposition of the images, like the voiceover with like the Virgin Suicides color palette. It's lovely. I was wondering, in which way did you originally intend to use the Alice in Wonderland lore to tell your story? As in, what are your specific personal parallelisms here, right? Beyond, of course, being trapped and wanting out.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking, like, first of all, when I looked at the quote, and like, I didn't realize like it's from Alice in Wonderland, because I know Alice in Wonderland in Polish. So then I realized like it's actually from Alice in Wonderland. So, you know, for me it was very interesting. So it's very personal experience, because being in a lockdown, stuck in one flat, it's almost like showing the world and being curious about the world right now from a perspective of a grown-up Alice. So it's not only just beautiful, it's still very beautiful, but it's different, and it carries some kind of like sadness and heaviness underneath. So with my images, I tried to not only shows the beauty, but also something uncertain and changeable, like it's still, and it takes time. So for you to absorb the images, but how long will it take? We don't know. Yeah. So for me, this is why I tried like to do, like to share, because also like I've been so far away from my family, from my brothers. So, you know, I was trying to communicate and, I don't know, find that language of like being in a distance from people, and how we can stay curious and open to the world and reconnect maybe with ourselves and face ourselves, and ask ourselves questions on how we want to be in this life. So yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's so fascinating to me to see the impact of something so serious as COVID in film so early on. I guess that short films, of course, are very uniquely suited to this. But I I would never have guessed that, you know, like some of these works have been produced a short while ago, because they're really nicely done. We have another question from the chat, which is, were there certain philosophers beyond, of course, the work of Lewis Carroll that you drew from when crafting the themes or the imagery that you want to talk about, like any other, you know, authors or writers?
Yeah. As I mentioned before, I love like paintings and art. So a year ago, I saw like exhibition of like Pierre Bonnard in Tate Modern, and I was just so fascinated with his bath scene. And so there are some like painters and photographers. What I did, I was like looking for images, like they kind of like recreate my dreams, and I recreated like a collage of my ideas, of my thoughts, to try to visualize on a piece of paper. So so like painters were very important to me, and also like I read loads of poetry, and I wrote myself poetry. So I didn't follow a specific philosopher, but it's just like, you know, conversations with people, even like in the back garden of my building was like they were my philosophers, people. So, and conversations right now.
That wisdom can be more important sometimes when creating film.
Now it's just like listening to others.
Totally. I related to this, to finding inspiration, which I know is what fascinates a lot of people. And it's interesting because I feel like inspiration very often is portrayed as this kind of thing that hits you once and then you get the idea, then in 24 hours you have it, which again, in short films maybe happens that way sometimes. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of times it happens differently. Like, to me at least, I can only speak for myself. It was very much a process of, with my first shorts, it was a process of a year or 2 years of drawing, writing, listening to people, watching films that I love, listening to a friend that was like, you have to watch this movie, or you have to read this poem. Or again, I was a fan of painting, and for example, for Paradise Hills, I also was inspired more by paintings than by almost anything else, which is just an interesting coincidence as well. But I have to say, what are your inspirations in terms of visuals? Obviously, I'm a former costume designer, so I have to ask this question, and we're getting this question in the chat as well. For everyone, it says, the production design, costumes in each of these films are so distinct. Could you talk about how you built these worlds for us?
Oh, starting from me.
Maybe let's start with Luana, and then we do sort of like the mom again. And then we go to Xiwen, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I had two distinct colors that I want to bring together, which was blue, which he relates to Danny and his fascination for this, for the seaside, for anything that is all about boats and life in the seaside. This is this connection. So the blue, it was what really defined Danny. Well, red is what defines Mom. Red is her passion, her rage, her and both they're also, she also blue and he also red. So they complementary to each other. So this is what this is how I see them, through colors, and so we start building from there. And so therefore we had all the lovely bedroom of Danny. With different pastel color, or blue, and Mom had his really strong red hair, the blood, obviously, part of the theme, which is about murder as well. So these are the two main colors, and I start working with, and through cinematographer and production designer, and we build the little world that you see in 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Xiwen, I was wondering about yours as well. It was really beautiful collaborative.
Thank you. It's a great question. So production design for me is really, really important, especially for this film, because the character doesn't talk throughout the film. So I think the environment, the production design, the costume portray how who he is in a sense. So the film is actually a period piece. It's supposed to be in the early 90s-ish. So you can see like the old Apple, like the iMac, the old one, the old version, and how he has this headphone on and cassette tape, and the answering machine. That's all very important. That says who he is and also gave him a voice to speak for himself.
I love that. Thank you. Was there any specific reason why you wanted to make this a period piece beyond the effect of nostalgia and that sort of relation between the audience and
Yeah, I just personally, I'm a huge fan of period piece, and I grew up in the 90s, so I wanted to make a film that's set in the 90s. That's to start with. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And then for Christiana, we actually have a specific question from the chat regarding your experience with site selection, with location selection, and how did that play into the visual narrative that you were envisioning? If you want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, that was the locations and the sets and all. That was definitely extremely important. My film also doesn't have any dialogue, so it's really kind of amazing. I don't know how a lot of it came together. I do production design and some like locations and things as like my career. So I had some ideas about that, but I was just so fortunate to make a lot of connections with people that I work with in the industry in more corporate or commercial realms, and everybody was so supportive of me in making this. I kind of like cashed in every favor that I could imagine.
Of course.
So using like studios for like the white scenes and stuff, like using this entire like infinity room was really helpful. And then the outdoor scenes were filmed at this place called Belle Isle, which is just one of my favorite places in the world, and I happen to live really close to it. Sort of the like abandoned building space is an art collective that just my cinematographer lives on the same street as the art collective, and we just went there and said, come and see some of your space, and we saw the light coming in through the windows, and we were like, this is so amazing. And I don't know, I just I was really genuinely like well supported in everything that I kind of was like, this is the vision that I see, and if we're not able to get that exact place, I had a lot of help in finding the right places.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then, Veronika, if you want to talk about that aspect of it for you as well, production design.
The production design. Because like the film was like shot during like like lockdown, so it's just me and my boyfriend basically creating this film. So all the costumes and clothes are like basically for most of the film is like body parts. So there is like one scene when I am in the garden. So that's the moment like when I'm dressed. So there are my personal colors, exploring colors, like how I feel. Like with like trying to like balance the space and the garden and how I feel the space and how I feel on that day. So this is how I planned. And I had a vision what I want to wear, but before like I looked through my wardrobe to compare what I've got and prepare everything. So it wasn't that complex and complicated. It was just like,
it was more about set dressing to you than anything else. You were doing set dressing. It was just that it was sort of bits and pieces of your life. Why not? Like, it's also totally valid. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for talking about this aspect. To me, definitely also costume design. I feel like in the case of Christiana's short, for example, I found that it was very striking. I was wondering if there were any original pieces, or if that was, if you rented costumes, or that's just a personal question for you.
It was all original pieces, either by myself or another paid actor. She goes by, designed all the white costumes, and what we did is I went thrift shopping and I bought every type of like white fabric that I could find, and I just like found every sheet and we tore them all up and cut them up, and then she just started sewing them together and like created these like masterpieces. I was really amazed, but yeah, and then everything else was designed by me, I believe. I had a friend that hand dyed some fabric for some of the scenes, so it was all collaborative and original.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So we have another question as well from the chat that says, for Luana, can you talk about the beautiful seaside cliff location in your film? Where was that located? What does that represent?
It's located in Brosters, near Ramsgate on the east coast of England, and very much like that. The dream sequence. So how Weronika was saying before about, for me, there is no distinction between waking life and dream-like.
Nice.
And therefore it was very important to make that point across in some ways. And we enter in our subconscious and to investigate what's happening, because all through the film we wonder as she wonder. I mean, I hope.
Yeah.
And therefore, that place, it's where Danny disappeared. We don't know what happened to Danny. We don't know how he died or how he disappeared. We don't know, but we know that he was connected to that very place, which is the same place that keeps tormenting her mom, her sense of guilt. And also connects with the color of Danny and with what he loved, but also what her mom is desperate about it. And that's where she's looking for him, and the place that he never found the body. So that's what is that piece of the moment in Keep On.
Yeah, interesting. Awesome. So we have just another question that says, how hopeful do each of you feel about the industry being more inclusive, both in Hollywood and around the world, as a result of current movements? Of course, we just discussed this briefly, but I want your answer now. We've heard a little bit from Christiana about this, but I was wondering, maybe we can move on to Xiwen first. And,
yeah, it's a hard question. I think I can only speak for myself. I think how do I phrase this? I think we should be hopeful, because as an Asian in America, I'm definitely in a minority group, but don't feel like that's a disadvantage. Just turn that into your advantage, because for me, I grew up in both Eastern and Western cultures. So I think for me, I have a very distinct view of, how to write, how to come up with a character, how to see the world, see the society in a different way. So I think, people always want to see new and distinct content. So use that as your advantage. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. I agree that it should be like, you should see difference as your strong suit for sure, in the sense that what makes you different makes you, beautiful, interesting, etc., 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 narratively. Of course, we have to acknowledge the fact that there's a lot of voices that are grossly misrepresented, and unfortunately, Asian American voices in the U.S. are part of that. collective, the on-screen representation is actually atrociously low for what it should be. And it's actually that part, yeah. And actually, the figures of I want to say Asian American, Asian, and Latino and Latinx representation of just actors just in front of the camera on screen are fairly similar right now. We need to, we definitely need to push that aspect, and or of course as well Black representation, which is incredibly important. But I wanted to move on in this case, Luana, if you wanted to speak to that as well.
Can you remind me the question?
Yeah, just inclusivity and how important inclusivity is right now, and what do you wish the industry was doing more of, basically, to help?
Well, that's I don't know, because in many ways I've been working in the industry over the last 15 years. So I've been quite lucky in terms of, I graduated as a writer-director, University of Arts in London in 2005. And I've been indie since then. Like, they don't open doors, I open doors. Kind of, you know, I had to make it for myself. And in a way, I really enjoy what I do. So I really love the medium I chose, because I come from fine art and in architecture, and then I moved into film, and then I come out of uni, and the first client I got, it was a vodka brand, and for 2 years I just went around the world and shooting little advert here and there, and then from there I done more documentaries and more content for private clients and cultural events and art collective like the Guerrilla Girls on Tour. So I've been very lucky in many ways, because when you come out of uni, you don't really, you don't think you're gonna get a job, or you start. But I started very nicely, and I'm so grateful for that. And then I went for 9 years I've been a self-shooting PD. So I was shooting, filming, editing, producing, one woman doing it all. And then I did a TV talk show. That was my last thing I did before I work it out. Well, what I really want to do here. I am a writer-director. I want to make a fiction. And so I really go back to my graduation film, which was my first psychological thriller called Interference. And this is what I love doing. Like, I mean, I love what I've done so far, but that is where my art beats. So I start developing a slate of projects, and Keep Mom is actually the first one from my own production company. And so my aim is to produce all those films and enjoy myself. So includes. At the end of the day, you had to make your, if you believe in something, you really need to go for it. So whatever, they are very nice to you or not.
Yeah, I mean,
because is still, we are the 5% in the film industry, are we?
It's awful, yeah. It's absolutely, it's terrible, but it is changing slowly, and I shall hope that studios will do better in the near future. And I'm speaking about them specifically because they have the most money, right? With hiring women and with hiring women of color, it's just a need, and it is. To me, with inclusivity, I always say the same thing, which is that I want to see the world around me. I want to see my friends on screen. I want to think as well that there is a real demand for seeing the actual real life planet on our screens, not just on our daily life. So let's drink to that. Let's cheers to that. Thank you. And then Weronika, if you want to speak about what do you feel like you would like to do to help with this element of inclusion.
In like the future. Well, some what you were talking before, like so many things and so many responses, but basically like embrace like how unique you are, and like this time of uncertainty offered me like creative drive. So I think there is a space for like creating. So as long as you believe in something and you want to do something, do it. Because like, you know, I've been offered that time and I thought, why not to do something? So definitely there is no limitation. You can be your own limitation. So as long as you, of course, you need like crew and team, but you know, like I still believe like you can create and get inspired by a small tiny thing in your life. So so this is what I'm trying to do in my life, and I hopefully I'll be giving that opportunity and chance to, you know, to stay strong as like female energy. Because like this festival shows like there is this female voice and it's so strong and powerful. Which is like something to see, and it's so encouraging. So it's like, yeah, so this is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I don't want to make this too long because I feel like it's not necessarily our duty in terms of, it is our duty when we do the hiring, like the team heads. It's extremely important to be in most of my projects that they're women, and specifically that they're, you know, women of color. It was over 60% in Paris Hills. Also, it was like a great percentage of queer people, and that's kind of my jam. But ultimately, the responsibility really is on the bigger fish that are actually doing the bigger in terms of hiring, and it is them that should be asked this question on a daily basis. So let's move on to a different subject that we're getting questions for in the chat. We have.
Can I actually, do you mind if I say something on that
Christian,
question?
sorry, because we were talking about this earlier on with you, but of course, please.
Oh no, that's okay. I just got excited. Because yeah, I mean, what you were saying, Alice, is so true. I think that something that I feel like I've been noticing in the industry, especially recently, is there is a lot of focus on inclusivity and representation of people, but like what you were saying about like in the actual industry and the people who are working in the field, and that is still so primarily male and primarily white. I think in like a lot of circles, at least in the United States, and maybe in like often when I'm doing production design or wardrobe on a job, myself and the makeup person are the two women on the set, and everyone else is male. And so it's really, I don't know, I try to talk to people about that when I'm working on sets with them. And then also as far as inclusivity of not even just inclusivity, but like raising up like the talent and the ability of people who just maybe like come from different cycles and different like cultural cycles, different education cycles, and it's like hard for those things to blend. So you have to be really intentional about it. And one of my favorite quotes about that is that if everyone at the table looks like you, then you need to like invite some other people to the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also agree with Luana's saying about building your door, building your own table. A lot of times you're not going to be allowed in, and your difference can be felt as violent or as aggressive. And we have to really fight for a non-homogeneous looking work in general. I don't care if it's, you know, women, people of color, queer people, disabled people. It really has to be different to our image of ourselves, and that is how you build a better future. But again, let's move on to the next one, just because we have to wrap things up, which is sad because this is such a lovely conversation. But someone in the chat says, yes, Christiana. Thanks, Weronika, for your input. And we have one last question from Elliot Francis Flynn, who asks, for all filmmakers, what do you have coming up next that you're excited about, that you can speak about? Nope.
Who goes?
Oh, yeah, please. Oh, so sorry. Go
ahead.
First. My apologies. I was like, okay, and I'm out. Yeah, she went.
Okay, so
go ahead.
So, as I said before, Keep Mom is a short pilot for my debut feature film, which is called My Enemy Within, which we're gonna we will discover more, of course, what is going to happen to mom after to that point. And so mainly, Kimam came up in my mind, but also he was for a purpose, and likely I managed to make it, and so I just really want to do more. And now I'm developing it, the script almost there, but hopefully when the COVID is going to chill out a bit and everything is going to be more relaxed, then let's go and shoot it. And so this is the plan, My Enemy Within.
Cool. We love that. Thank you so much. Xiwen, my apologies.
Yeah, so I'm currently planning to shoot my MFA thesis. We shot half in China in January this year, and because we were going to shoot in Italy in May, and then because of the pandemic and the border shutdown, so we kind of stuck here. Mm-hmm. So we rewrote the script, and we're going to shoot that hopefully in the fall. Yeah. Nice. Also, I have a feature developed already, and we're pitching to companies. And also, I'm writing with another feature with several other writer-directors. It's going to be 4 shorts from different ethnicities and communities, and how different groups of people are affected under the pandemic right now.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have a title on that you can share, or not for the moment?
Sorry, what?
Do you have a title on that you can share, or not for the moment?
Well, for the second feature, we just it's a working title. We just call it the Quarantine Project, and and the first one, and the one is developed already. Is called Persona. It's it's about a young gay Chinese-born New Yorker, and he battles his sexuality and the story about that.
Yeah, interesting. Prejudice, so that's so cool. It sounds beautiful. Can't wait to watch. Okay, cool. So Christiana, if you want to go ahead with yours.
Sure. So I have a few things. I just recently started working with one of the dancers from my film about like helping him bring some of his own creative concept to life, and that I think we're trying to get some like funding for that into like a larger developed project that will be like really using a lot of the visuals of Detroit and sort of its unique look and like blight and stuff like that. But he grew up here, and kind of using the neighborhoods there to showcase what happens when that happens to a neighborhood, but where's the community and what are they still doing and how important that is to them, and kind of celebrating it in a different way than it typically is, I think, and also bringing attention to it for like development needs that they have. As well as I have been writing a feature for a pretty long time. I'm not quite finished with it yet, but I have a really great screenwriter that I'm a part of, and I'm trying to finish it in the next couple of months, and then maybe I'll try to take a part of it and make some sort of proof of concept or something, and that's kind of a sci-fi and like futuristic climate film.
Nice. Did you say climate? Very necessary.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like I talk about this a lot regarding science fiction. I feel like we need to make fighting against climate change cool again, because it's not urgent.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just say. I don't know if someone else knows. Thank you. So Weronika, if you would like to speak about your incoming projects as well.
Yeah. Well, this film is like my first film I've ever created. So following that, I just like realized how passionate and how much I love like creating my own work, because it's kind of ownership. So what I've been keep writing is like an extended version of a woman, but from a different community, different culture, and experiencing different events. Like my inspiration came from protests going on around the world and how the world is changing. So I keep writing things based also on my friends and the experience around like lockdown, but still is like walking and wandering around the world from the perspective of a woman, and also like visually, like I'm inspired by paintings and butterflies. So this is another thing, like it's so powerful to me recently. So
We love
yeah,
that. Right.
yeah. But as well, like at this, like in September, I start my 3rd year of acting. So this is what I'm also doing on the side, and I'm passionate about this. So I think it's possible to do lots of things, and this is what my course is about. It's like collaborative devising theatre course. So it's just like, yeah, this is what I'm trying to do. Stay creative. Yeah.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And perhaps Rebecca will want to wrap things up today. But it's been really, really lovely to speak with you. And again, really happy to see where the future of film is heading.
Well, I just want to say this was an amazing panel. I loved the topics you guys discussed, and I'm excited to share this with the world. And it's encouraging during these times having these kind of conversations. And you guys are all so creative, and I'm really excited to follow all your careers. And Alice, I love you. You're great. Anyways, about what's coming up this afternoon, I am doing a tribute Q&A with Jennifer Reeder. She directed Knives and Skin. Really excited to talk to her about her films. And then this evening, depending on where you guys probably be sleeping at this time, but it'll be recorded. We have the Black female filmmaker Renaissance panel with some really awesome female filmmakers, Numa Perrier, Channing Godfrey-Peoples. Chaz Ebert is moderating. She is the editor-in-chief of RogerEbert.com. So yeah, this is going to be great. So we'll see you then, and make sure to check out the films. I put the link if you guys haven't checked out Short Black 3 yet. So see you later, and thank you guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nice meeting you guys.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Bye.